come back. We're going to talk about what the DNC just did. It's very nice. Okay. Okay, welcome back to Kerberos Roundtable Discussion. Still here with Harry Berger. So we're gonna switch topics a little bit. The DNC just voted to not have Medicare for all be part of its platform by a large margin. What a shocker!
Well, universal health care is on the Green Party platform, so if you want universal health care, this is the place to get it.
Great. Okay.
And I assume that the Republicans don't have universal health care on their platform, right?
No. Very true.
I've never even heard them discussing it. So, yeah.
No. The most one Republican in Congress wants to do, one Republican is he thinks we should negotiate drug prices. The drug companies disagree, but
what a shock! Oh
yeah,
no!
I'm
sorry, your stream is going slow, and I'm losing your audio.
Okay, so the drug companies disagree. It was a really fun conversation where he said, "What? Like they were like, some other countries negotiate their drug prices. What if we did it?" The drug company's like, "Well, I don't really recommend that." The guy who was testifying in front of Congress like, "Well, I don't recommend that."
Well, because he would personally lose money off the deal. Mm-hmm. What a surprise!
Definitely, and
I mean, I have a friend who is diabetic, and until recently, he was semi-legally importing his insulin from Canada through a bunch of laborious process because it was something like $400 a month or something for him to get it in this country. Meanwhile, it costs like I forget exactly, but it was something like $10 actual production cost for insulin. It's dirt cheap, and one of the patents sold for $1 or given away for free when it was first invented, something like that. It's just absolutely ridiculous, and these are so many people need it every day to live.
I think the bill that he was talking about was very watered down too, and they still don't want it. So,
of course,
no regulation, no drug price controls, none of that. He doesn't recommend it. But we're gonna take a look at that clip really quickly and get your reaction to Brad if you could do that really quickly. Sure, but yeah. Okay. Okay. So here, this is from a year ago. We haven't heard anything about it since, for some reason.
I wonder why.
For being here, I'm struck by what we're hearing today. We've heard a lot of concern about policy changes, what those changes might do to innovation, and I just want to drill down.
Yeah, the picture is paused, right?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you all for being here.
Yep.
I'm struck by what we're hearing today.
Yeah.
We've heard a lot of concern about policy changes, what those changes might do to innovation, and I just want to drill down on that because I wonder if we're asking the wrong question. It seems to me that it's good to have a policy that promotes innovation, and that's certainly what much of our patent policy has been aimed at in the United States. But the real question is who's going to pay for that innovation? And that, to me, seems to be the key question. And the problem now is the people who are paying for that innovation are those who are the sickest. It's those who go virtually bankrupt because they can't choose when they get sick, and they get stuck with footing the bill for the innovation for not just the rest of us, but for the rest of the world. And so let me just ask the panel this question. Would anybody on this panel, if you were designing a system to promote innovation and you were doing so from scratch, would any of you design a system like we have now that places the cost of innovation on the sickest of folks who cannot afford or choose when they get sick? Any takers?
No.
Let me ask you about the cost that Americans bear for providing cheap drugs to other countries. And I just want to get on the record what some of the people in my state of Missouri, for instance, are paying. Take a commonly prescribed blood thinner. In my home state, in Versailles, Missouri, the cost of that medication is 500% more expensive, 500% more expensive than it is in Versailles, France. Or, for instance, a common nerve and muscle treatment in Sedalia, Missouri costs 200% more than the exact same drug in Sedalia, Canada. Let's just talk about that for a minute, why this is happening in the basic economic model. Mr. Stansel, let me ask you, when we as a country issue patents, we're effectively agreeing to pay a monopoly price, to pay for monopoly profits in exchange for greater amounts of innovation. Would you agree with that?
Yes, although there would be potentially competition on the market already, or competition that comes after that's in the same therapeutic class. So it's not an ability like in any other industry to set your prices at whatever you want. It's a market-based decision.
Well, tell me this: the majority of patent medications developed here in the United States. But would you agree that those benefits are shared across the globe, including and maybe especially in developed countries like Canada and Europe?
That's right. There's a lot of freeloading, free riding that goes on across the world. The U.S. Department of Commerce in 2004 actually did a study that said that if countries essentially were paying what they should for pharmaceutical products, that there would be enough research and development money available to bring dozens of new products to market every year.
I'm so glad to hear you say that, because in fact, a recent report from the Brookings Institute estimates that Americans pay 78% of the monopoly profits for these drugs, but other consumers in Europe and in Canada benefit from it by paying 200 and 300 and 400 and 500% less than American consumers are paying. Don't you agree that that's a problem? We should do something about that?
I think we should, and I think we have existing trade agreements that we can use to prevent some of the practices that are going on in these other countries.
Well, if the trade agreements are existing, why haven't
everybody
we
else pay
prevented
more?
this
Oh,
pattern
brilliant.
that's been going on for years now?
Because the authority actually needs to be used. For example, we've encouraged that the U.S. Trade Representative appoint a special ambassador, essentially, that would address drug pricing abroad and address situations where compulsory licensing and other things are being used.
He's trying
What
to
happens a
avoid
lot
an
of times
evil
in other
grin.
countries is that they actually have a much smaller generic market than we do. They don't have 90% uptake in the generic market. They're actually using branded products a lot more than we do. And that's in part because they take the IP and they give it to some of their generic manufacturers. It's a process that results in fewer products worldwide, and it actually should be addressed.
Well, what about this? Senator Scott and I have a bill that would prevent pharma companies from charging American consumers more than they charge consumers for the exact same drugs in Europe and Canada. What about that?
I think that adopting essentially the price controls that are being used in other countries is not the best way to address this issue. I think competition is the better way to address this.
Well, so wait a minute. But those prices are negotiated. It's a range of countries. We have an index, so over a variety of countries. Why is it that American consumers, why should people in my home state of Missouri pay 500% more for a drug that subsidizes its cheap cost in Canada? Why should that be the case?
Well, let me talk about that. In other countries, it's not always a negotiation. In fact, many countries, they're presented with a price, and the question is, do you want this price or do you want to not be on the market? And in fact, what's happened in many countries, we've looked specifically at oncology products. Oncology products are actually
Okay, we can
not
stop the video here.
Only 6% of all oncology products that are approved.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like, no, we
I
don't
feel
want
like
to
he's holding
negotiate.
back an evil grin the whole time there when he's talking about, basically, oh, the answer is we need to make people pay more over there. No. Doctors take the Hippocratic Oath. The kind of people who become doctors and medical research scientists, they're the kind of people who want to give back to humanity. They want to make all of us healthier and safer, because there's no way that they can know that whatever disease they're working on, they might develop it later in life, or their wife or their kid or their husband or whoever, their mother, their father, somebody in their family could develop this thing. And if the drug doesn't exist to treat it, then, well, there's no drug to treat it. So I don't understand. Well, I do understand why, but I would have all pharmaceutical research companies be nonprofits, where you don't buy stock in a medical research company because you want to make a lot of money. That should just be flat out illegal. It's extortion. It's your money or your life. You have a captive audience, of people who can't choose not to use your product. So, pay the doctors and pay the scientists and the manufacturers. Pay the people for their labor, sure. Pay for the production costs and the machinery, sure, but there should be no billions of dollars going into the pockets of CEOs and executives.
Definitely.
It's
Just
just
posting this on Facebook.
like the gentleman from the Young Turks was saying before. They're not immoral. They're amoral.
Hmm?
All they care about is getting as much money as possible. And
Definitely.
As an engineer, I'm a little bit more familiar with the patent system than your average bear here. But mostly, we were talking about the patents for the purpose of, say, a new electronics item that you developed or a new machine or what have you. And the way that works is that you get a time-limited monopoly on the product, but in exchange, you have to share how it works. And when that patent runs out, anybody can use it. But
Right.
what they do with the medical patents is a lot of times they will, while they're waiting for the clock to run out, they're developing like a minor 1% improvement on the product. And like 6 months before the first patent is going to run out, they file for this new patent, and then they get the FDA to say that the old thing is not safe enough. The new one is safer, so we can only produce the new one. You're not allowed to produce the old one anymore. And so they get another, I think it's 20 years.
And we're not
of-
getting anything out of this. We're giving them this patent. We're giving them this stuff. They're like, okay, now we're going to price gouge you. Thank you for that. Now we're going to do this price gouging thing.
Right.
No, definitely. And before I was talking about the Young Turks, I wanted to mention that one of the states where they showed up, to get this done, who showed up? The Koch brothers showed up to testify against it. And they actually won. They beat the Koch brothers.
Well, that's nice to hear.
Well, not
that,
them themselves.
Rationality takes a day sometimes.
They send people to they hired people to go there and say that it's good to have money in politics. So.
Oh, sure, and I'm sure there's crowds of Tea Partiers outside. That I really don't understand those people. Like, why are actual like working class people in favor of this system? Why aren't people standing up and saying, no, this is not what we want. You're not doing what we want. You're not doing what's good for the people. And hey, here's this Green Party. They actually want to do the things that we want. Everybody I hear about lately, especially since the pandemic has hit, has been saying, why don't we have universal health care in this country? There's over 50 nations in the world that the UN considers highly developed nations. And we're the only one on that list who doesn't have some sort of universal health care, whether it's a national health care system or a single payer system or whatever it is.
There's
They
other
all have
proposals
healthcare
that would
for everybody.
subsidize. There's another proposal that would subsidize all the health insurance companies, and they would be funded by the government, and they'd have to insure healthcare. That one got shut down as well.
Well, the thing is, then they just find a way to overcharge the government, like the military-industrial complex always does.
Definitely.
They by making the program take longer, by finding new problems they have to solve, they're making everything on a cost-plus basis. So when the F-35 runs over budget, it's not that the company loses money. No, the government just keeps throwing them more and more money. And then we had to split it into 3 different programs for 3 different aircraft. So now you got the Navy, the Air Force, and the Marines have 3 different versions of the F-35.
And then these people on the right talk about the deficit, but universal health care actually costs less than our current system. Like, oh, but no, we need our donors, so we can't do that. It's talking points. Most of it is just talking points, and that's what when they bring it up, they don't care about it. They're just like, oh, well, my donors told me to say this, so a lot of.
They don't say it that way. They find some mealy-mouthed excuse for why it's not that, but it's bribery with extra steps to make it technically not illegal.
Definitely. Now, I want to show an ad of someone who's not running for president, who almost ran for president, who his ad was very interesting and kind of highlighted a couple of the issues we're having in the country.
Kanye, is it?
No. It's Jesse Ventura, a little bit more serious candidate
Oh.
than Kanye. A little bit more serious. No, but he highlighted a couple of the issues in the country, so I'd like to take a look.
And I'll tell you something else honestly. Before I put my butt on the line, this country better show me it's worth it. We gotta think revolutionary. You gotta be ready to elect Che Guevara. Because I will change things if I won.
We need a single-payer, government-run health care.
It's a human right. If you're sick, you should be able to go to the doctor. If we weren't
What a
spending all the
concept.
money on these wars,
Yes.
we'd have health care 3 times over. Health should not be for profit. Everybody in this country deserves the same health care that congressmen get. They should be no better or no worse than us. After all, don't they work for us? I would start a war on the climate and a war on pollution. I'm watching the oceans die before my very eyes. I got news for you, ladies and gentlemen. If the
100 degrees
oceans
Fahrenheit
die,
at the North Pole.
die.
The basic 4 years should be free, so we now pay from kindergarten through 4 years of college. We can do that if we get out of the wars. I'll support that. If we guarantee we get out of wars, the result will be free college.
The state of our country today, we're in a mess. And who is to blame? The Democrats and the Republicans. They have been in charge for my entire life. How can we take our country back today? Simple. Stop voting for Democrats and Republicans.
Exactly.
We must, this election, elect an independent. Will you agree we're polarized? The worst we've been probably since the Civil War, I would imagine. Well, if you elect a Dem or Repub, the polarization is going to continue. The only way the country's going to get reunited is to elect an independent president.
So then do you feel a need to do
I
it
have
in order
that,
to
I
serve your
have
country?
that voice in the back of my head that says to me, if not you, then who? It's there. If they got the frickin' guts to let me in a debate, I'll come in and destroy their 2 candidates and steal the election in November, just like I did in Minnesota.
Ventura being declared the winner. First he was Jesse the Body Ventura, then he was Jesse the Mind, now he's Jesse the Governor.
If the Greens come back to me in the end of July and say, you're my man, if it becomes brokered, I won't shut the door.
Now, he dropped out of the race for health reasons, apparently, but I think his ad highlighted a couple different issues that we have in the
Right.
country.
He's openly endorsed Howie. He said
Oh,
that
really?
he would be running on the Green Party if he was going to run, but he doesn't want to, and he's voting Green.
Definitely. And he, one of the things I remember he saying last time was he said he would only run Green because he would never run Democrat or Republican, but he couldn't run Libertarian because they don't believe in climate change. And that's one of his.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've been championing the Green New Deal for a whole 10 years before the Democrats. They decided to, plagiarize what Howie's been saying for 10 years and water it down till it's not really a Green New Deal. It's the Diet Coke version.
And the
It's the-
Democrats don't like, and the corporates just don't like that one either. So we're not going to get anything.
Yeah.
So Pelosi calls it the green dream or whatever. That's her literal words.
Well, basically, we're going with the scientists who say if we don't get down to zero emissions by 2030, that's 10 years away, we are going to be in deep trouble as a species. I mean, like I was saying before, we just had the temperature station closest to the North Pole register 100 degrees Fahrenheit. It's supposed to be ice up there.
Hmm?
But now they're talking about ships going over the Northern Ocean.
I'd like to ask you about this really quickly. There's this pledge. And I'd like to Brad, if you could pull it up, I just sent it to you. Now, I ask all the politicians or people running for office who come on the show to sign this pledge. And now we're going to take a look at this pledge. And Brad,
How long is this thing?
the pledge is like five pillars.
Oh, okay.
So scroll down. Higher wages. I pledge to fight for a $15 minimum wage. Medicare for all, a Green New Deal, college for all, and to end the corruption.
Oh, those are already in my platform.
So will you sign this pledge if I send it to you?
Dollars to donuts, yeah. I want to read the actual text to make sure that there's nothing snuck in there. But, if you go on my website, you'll already see all those things.
Well, the Green New Deal says, I pledge to fight for a 10-year plan to mobilize every aspect of American society to achieve net zero greenhouse gas emissions and create millions of new high-wage paying jobs, building the infrastructure and industries of the new economy. Basically,
Yeah, that's basically what we're going for here. We probably have, we got even more details with that, with Howie's page for the Green New Deal and everything. And excuse me, my take on the cuts to military spending is I want to see us reduce the military budget to 50% of what it was last year, gradually over the course of 5 years.
Definitely, and we'd still
spend more on our military than the next 10 countries combined.
We'd still be spending the most if we had 50% less.
Oh, absolutely.
So no one has to. People, the Democrats say, "Oh, Russia's going to spend more," and the Republicans say, "Oh, China's going to spend more." They're not spending nearly anywhere close to us now.
We've got the only real blue water navy in the world.
We're fine.
Yeah, I mean, so we've only got 3 aircraft carriers running around the water instead of 5. Or I think we got 5 now, right?
Yeah,
Something
we'll be
like
okay.
that.
And the other thing is, it's not like we're being attacked on our soil right now. We don't really need that. It's different, like in wartime, if we're literally being invaded and we want to raise the budget if we're being invaded. But we're not being invaded.
I'm not saying send send it all to the scrap yards. We can mothball it and put it into storage in case we need to reactivate it. But who's really wants to challenge the United States of America to a shooting war?
No one's stupid enough. All of our wars, all of our illegal wars are overseas right now.
Exactly.
They're not going to come here. Do you really think the people, when we were at war with Iraq, are they really going to come to U.S. soil? No.
No.
They're not coming here.
Well, really 9/11 was the last time we had anything like that. And I was in college when 9/11 happened. I was Army ROTC my first 2 years of college. I was still figuring out what did I want to do with my life. And the way that program works is before you start the first day of your 3rd year in the program, you have to sign on the dotted line to actually join the Army. I never took their money. I wanted to be able to live the life of a cadet and experience it and know what it was that I was proposing to get myself into. And I remember on 9/11, that was a Tuesday because that was uniform day on campus. So my first class was at like 11 o'clock in the morning then. And I remember I was put on my uniform and I was walking over to class, and one of the upperclassmen was walking the other way and he wasn't wearing his uniform. I was like, what's going on? He's like, turn around and get that off. They're worried we could be targets. I was like, okay, this is really happening here. And the next day on September 12th, 2001, I had to get up before dawn to raise the flag on campus. And for the first time in my life, I looked up into a sky where no airplanes were flying. I've always lived under a major flight path for an international airport. You always see lights moving across the sky, and there were none. And that's when I knew that this wasn't, something on TV. This wasn't an illusion. This wasn't a prank.
We're going to have to switch Zoom meetings one more time.
Oh, okay.
It's doing it again. 6 minutes. So, Brad, if you could set that up.
But I got plenty of time.
Okay. We'll do another maybe
if I can
20.
just finish up this bit without switching off and everything.
Well, we'll finish off, and then we'll switch, yeah.
what happened was, before I had to make that decision at the end of my second year, I decided that I don't want the story of my life to be about death. So I left at the end of the year, and I decided at the same time that if that's the principle that I'm living my life by, I'm not going to make weapons of war. And for a mechanical engineer on Long Island, that means saying no to most of the job opportunities, including all of the best paying job opportunities. So I've already paid a cost for that stance, and that's how I've lived. And I've worked for other companies, and this is something that I'm really committed to.
Definitely. Now, Brad, if you
do you want to do the switch over now thing?
Yeah, Brad, create the link. You should not do this, actually. Yeah.
That's why they do it, to make you pay money.
I know. Yeah, that's another
All right,
thing.
I'll see you in a second.
Okay, so everyone watching the stream right now, we'll be right back. We have to switch to another Zoom meeting because we don't want to pay $20. Now send it. Yeah.
Everyone, I'd like to publicly say that switching Zoom meetings is the worst thing ever. Hate it. Waiting for these guys, to get in here. Shane and and Mr. Berger. Although I guess I gotta send it to Shane's computer now. You gotta love it. Can't just message it to himself. Oh man. If only it were so easy. Okay, got of that. Do 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 do. Why are Steam notifications coming up on my computer? We are waiting for our guest to come back in the Zoom meeting. Waiting for my guest to come back. Waiting for Shane. Harry R. Berger came back. Is in the meeting. Alright, welcome back to Zoom meeting number 3. Glad to have you here. My job was pretty easy before, but this just adds a whole nother layer to what it is, and it's just annoying. So annoying. I might have to invest my own earnings into just getting a Zoom premium account so I don't have to deal with this. I swear. I'd rather do that than deal with making a new meeting and waiting for Shane.
That is exactly why they do that. Is it
horrible.
Is it annoying enough to be worth paying $20 to get rid of the annoyance? And they create that annoyance just to do that.
Yeah, exactly. I'd rather use a different service. I'd rather use Skype or something that's actually free. But no, we gotta use Zoom.
Well, why not? So why do you use Zoom then?
Because Shane says that it's the best for his webcam or something, even though no matter what service he uses, it's still laggy anyways. So I don't know what he can do about it, right? I don't know, because I guess Zoom is just the standard now, and everyone knows how to use Zoom. I don't know. It's just...
I've used a bunch of other things, and they're not hard to figure out. They all work basically the same way.
Yeah, no. We usually, outside of, interviews, we use, Discord to communicate, which, works really well. I wish you'd use that.
That's all text, right?
It's text, and it has video conferencing and, voice calling. and
Oh, cool.
it's super integrated. It's all free to use, super easy to use, and
Open source, I presume.
pretty much, yeah. It's open source, and like independent company. It's a great service, and I don't understand why we don't use it.
Oh, I just clicked the link you gave me.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, I'm just... And he's not even trying to join the meeting. Like, I've been sitting here. Oh, there he is. Jeez, dude. Took like 5
Let's say, do you need me to text him?
No.
Maybe he needs to refresh his email page.
Maybe. Yeah, he's joining right now. Taking him forever. Gotta love it.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. Exactly right. Anyways, you guys can continue now.
All right. Sorry about that. I had to enter it manually. The link wasn't working. So. Okay.
I hate it when that happens.
Yeah, me too. So now I'm not sure if you've heard. I'm going to talk about. You just said that Howie Hawkins got endorsed by Jesse Ventura. Now Joe Biden has a great endorsement. What the hell is it? That
Wait,
Republican.
no, Joe Biden didn't get endorsed by Jesse Ventura. That
No,
was
I
Howie
said
Hawkins.
no. I said Howie Hawkins had Jesse Ventura's endorsement.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Joe Biden has this nice endorsement from John Kasich.
Who's he again?
No, last year he ran against Trump last time. Who denied the VP spot with Trump? So.
But the thing is, when you say Jesse Ventura, almost nobody in America says who's that.
No, well, I know some people who know. Like, he's pretty well known among progressive groups and even some right groups. He's pretty known.
Okay.
So to that extent, he's known. He's more, and a lot of the people who were Sanders supporters knew who he was because they know, well, not like the ones who are more immersed in politics know who he is.
Right. Yeah.
Not like the casual guy who's like, oh, I like this guy, like the guy who's like, oh, I like these policies. Oh, this guy had the, if I can, now,
you're right there?
Yeah. Now I'm going to ask Brad to pull up this nice video talking about how from another show. Are you familiar with the Kyle Kalinske show? Secular Talk?
I don't think I've heard of that before.
Okay, that's another progressive show, and they're talking about how John Kasich is going to speak at the DNC and how that actually means that Joe Biden is moving further to the right.
Oh, what a surprise.
And how he's a moderate Republican, really.
Well, if you pause on that video for a second, one of the things that's going on here is that Joe Biden is trying to appeal to the Republicans who don't like Donald Trump and trying to seem more acceptable to them because he knows if he doesn't appeal to them, they'll just vote for Donald Trump. But unless the people on the left say, you have a choice here. Either you can adopt the green platform or I'll just vote green and we'll leave you and you don't get our votes and you will lose the election.
Exactly. Now,
and without that sort of Damocles hanging over his head, he's got no reason to capitulate anything to the left. And so you wind up with a far-right fascist party and, slightly more center of the right party in controlled opposition. But you don't have anything really and you don't have very many politicians at all that are really advocating for we the people.
No. And in here, he refers to them as the Republicans and the Diet Republicans. So,
like I said, the Diet Coke version before.
Yeah. So you're ready? We could press play and we could take a look at what he has to say about John Kasich.
So I have a little bit of breaking news here for everybody.
No audio here.
I saw this right before I came.
New Zoom call.
Came on air. Apparently, John Kasich will be speaking at the Democratic National Convention in support of Biden. He's so anti-Trump, that he's going to support Biden and speak on Biden's behalf at the DNC. So, there's a lot to say about this. I mean, first of all, let's just bring up what I think is a very interesting point, if not obvious, but this is a guy who, there were reports back in 2016 when Trump locked up the Republican nomination that Trump's team actually approached John Kasich and asked John Kasich, hey, number one, would you like to be VP? Number two, if yes, would you like to effectively run the country while Trump goes around the country and does his rallies? So in other words, that was a little bit of a signal of like, the thing Trump really likes doing is campaigning. Governing, who knows if he has, at the time, who knew if he had any ability to do it? And, you know, he probably wouldn't be good at it, doesn't really have strong ideological commitments. So why not let a serious adult person govern, John Kasich? And, you know, Trump will go out there and be the Rally for America guy, the campaigner in chief. Now, John Kasich reportedly turned that down because he doesn't like Trump. So to the extent that he's anti-Trump, good. I think that's great. You know, it'd be better to have more people who are Republicans or on the right say, yeah, I'm not with this guy, because so much of what he's doing is just inexcusable. The abysmal failure on COVID, the new economic depression that we're in. So insofar as he's just anti-Trump, good. That's a positive thing. Here's why this is annoying. The same people who blocked Nina Turner from speaking at the DNC in 2016 and instead had Mike Bloomberg, the stop and frisk billionaire, speak. Those people are going to turn around and welcome John Kasich with open arms. Well, for those of you who don't know, John Kasich is massively anti-choice, against abortion. He was against marriage equality. He just recently said, no, our anti-discrimination protections do not include transgender people. So he's an anti-transgender bigot who's openly in favor of discriminating against them. No problem with that whatsoever. Does not want anti-discrimination laws to protect the trans community. And he's also anti-union. Now, he's a moderate Republican in the context of today's Republican Party, but that's still a pretty far-right character. Now, would I be like, okay, you know what, fine, it's cool, if John Kasich was signing up for a left agenda? Yes, I'm in favor of changing people's minds. I'm in favor of converting people so that we can build a coalition and become successful and implement our ideas. The problem with this John Kasich news is that ain't nobody
he's not changing
John Kasich's mind about Dickie McGee's ex. John Kasich is acknowledging rightly that Joe Biden is a moderate Republican. So the issue with this story is that this is a new acknowledgement that, well, the Democratic Party of 2020 is just the Republican Party of 1980. They're for, tax cuts for the rich. They're for deregulation of Wall Street. They're for endless wars in the military-industrial complex. That's why John Kasich is fine with endorsing Biden and advocating for him. Not because Joe Biden convinced John Kasich to go left on his grounds. No, it's because fundamentally, Joe Biden agrees with the right and agrees with John Kasich and agrees with establishment Republicans. So that's why this is an issue. Everybody knows I have no problem with building bridges wherever we can build bridges on our terms. That's the key point. So Bernie Sanders working with Mike Lee, an otherwise disgusting far-right winger. But he worked with Mike Lee to end the genocide in Yemen. Sign me up for that all day. Why? Because we're not compromising left-wing values in the process of working with somebody. But Kasich standing up for Biden, there's no standing up for left-wing values here. Everybody just recognizes that Joe Biden's a moderate Republican. And so he's like, great, so the Democratic Party is like the old-school Republican Party. Sign me up because I'm a Republican. That's what John Kasich is doing here. And that's why this is frustrating. The same party that put a middle finger up to Nina Turner is welcoming John Kasich with open arms. What does that tell you? What does that tell you? It tells you they got no interest in Nina Turner's politics. They got no interest in the populist left. They got no interest in social democracy. They got no interest in raising wages and ending wars. They got no interest in ending the drug war. I can go on and on. They have no interest in Nina Turner, who's right about virtually everything, and they have plenty of interest in John Kasich, who's wrong about virtually everything. By the way, the same people who are going to applaud John Kasich speaking at the DNC gave Bernie hell for acknowledging that the most popular podcaster on the planet, Joe Rogan, endorsed him. John Kasich is only a quadrillion times worse than Joe Rogan. Not even close. Not even close. Joe Rogan is for universal health care. Joe Rogan is for ending the wars. Joe Rogan is for a living wage. These are not things that John Kasich supports. He doesn't support them at all. John Kasich is way to the right of Joe Rogan. But Joe Rogan is unacceptable, and we need to cancel Bernie for just acknowledging that Joe Rogan endorsed him. But John Kasich, just shut up and welcome him with open arms, no questions asked. Again, guys, I want to be clear. Let's say Bernie Sanders won the nomination and John Kasich signed up for the Bernie Sanders agenda. I'd be like, cool, no doubt, that's what's up. Because he would be agreeing with left values, our values. Him going and promoting Biden is simply because he knows Biden agrees with right-wing values. That's why this is disgusting. And the hypocrisy of the people who would slam Joe Rogan, who would not allow Nina Turner to speak at the DNC, but now they're like, yes, John Kasich. You guys couldn't be more clear about where your politics stand. And I'm just simply tired of the neoliberal, corporatist warhawks. I can't stand them. I can't stand them. And they have tried and succeeded at taking over the establishment of the Democratic Party. These guys welcome Bill Kristol, who's a war criminal, David Frum, who's a war criminal, with open arms. They welcome John Kasich, who's a deregulator and a corporatist. They welcome him with open arms. It's the likes of Nina Turner that they say hell no to. It's a party that would much rather have John Kasich front and center than me or Nina Turner. That's the problem with this. You'll always see me advocate for working with people, even who we vehemently disagree with on other issues. You will always see me advocate working with people who agree on the specific issues where you agree, because I think that's obvious. I think that's common sense. But John Kasich is going to Biden because Biden's going to do stuff John Kasich wants, not the other way around. So, this is who they are.
Yep. So,
Okay.
get your reaction.
So as soon as I saw the picture and stuff, I knew who you were talking about. It just I didn't recognize the name immediately.
Right.
Like a lot of engineers, I'm on the autistic spectrum, so sometimes I'll not pick up on names too quickly if it's not someone that I like know or have seen a lot of before.
Right. I think there he made a couple points about what the Democratic Party is kind of